Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. And the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always on Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio.com, TuneIn. We're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on Podcast Addict. And also, if you go to Alexa and just say, Alexa, please play Boxing Along the Beltway, it comes up on your Alexa as well. And we do have a lot to talk about this week. We don't have a lot of actual boxing again, but we do have an update on some things that will be happening up in the future. But today we're going to do something kind of special because we're heading into the celebration of 15 years of the blog version of Boxing Along the Beltway. We've been doing the blog version since 2005. And we're coming up on the 15th anniversary of that. We'll be starting year 16 very soon. And because of that, we're going to do something a little different this week. And actually for the next couple of podcasts we do, we're going to do a very special countdown of my favorite Beltway boxing bouts. Now, these aren't the greatest bouts of all time by any means, but these are bouts that meant so much to me during my almost 37 years of covering Beltway boxing. So we're going to share that with you. We're going to share the first half with you. A couple honorable mentions, followed by bouts 10 through 6 on our countdown. So we'll talk about that in today's podcast. Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief. And hey, folks, we found out something. Actually, he's been doing it for a while, we found out. But we come to the forefront that Real Time Pain Relief, the fast-absorbing, non-greasy ointment, is now endorsed by the two-time former heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Big George Foreman. So try his new knockout formula on Real Time Pain Relief. Real Time Pain Relief, rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She had great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. You do want some Real Time Pain Relief? Contact me either on Twitter at Digital25. Contact me by email at BeltwayBoxingHotmail.com. And I will send it over. My wife actually is involved in distributing Real Time Pain Relief. So if you want to contact me, and I can contact her, of course, get you that offer still stands. You buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief, get a free $10 tube. That offer still stands. But we do want to mention now that George Foreman is behind Real Time Pain Relief. So you do want to contact me about Real Time Pain Relief. You can do so by going to Digital25, my Twitter page, or you can go to my email at beltwayboxing@hotmail.com. Now, before we get to our countdown this week, we were almost going to have some boxing this week to talk about. In fact, it was scheduled for Tuesday night at the MGM Grand Bubble in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's where the sexy Albanian Yank Plana out of Hagerstown, Maryland, was scheduled to take on Rafael Trouble Ibokwe of Houston, Texas, in a rematch of a bout that took place back in August of 2019. And Plana lost a split decision. However, the bout was scheduled for last night, Tuesday night, at the MGM Grand. It was scheduled to be televised on ESPN. However, Ibokwe tested positive for COVID-19 and could not compete in the bout. We wish him well, of course, but Plana could not compete, so the bout was called off. Now, a couple other things also about that card. Former world champion Isaac Dogbe is now being trained by the Headbangers. Barry Hunter and Patrice Harris, were in Las Vegas for the bout, and Dogbo won by not technical knockout, so great win for them. But quite frankly, we don't see any Beltway boxing on the horizon. We just, however, found out about a Beltway boxing will be in a major card coming up on Saturday, October 24th at Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut. That, of course, is the former junior super featherweight and lightweight champion of the world, Gervonta Tank Davis. He is scheduled to take on Leo Santa Cruz on Saturday, October 24th at the Mohegan Sun. And this is going to be a pay-per-view event. So we'll tell you more about that as we get down the pike. Hopefully it'll continue and everything will be okay. But, Gervonta Tank Davis taking on Leo Santa Cruz Saturday, October 24th at Mohegan Sun, Uncasville, Connecticut, and that is scheduled to be a pay-per-view event. So don't be surprised if other boxers from the Upton Boxing Gym will be involved with that. So we'll keep you posted as we get closer to it. So now let's get to that countdown we have, our top 10 Beltway boxing bouts of all time, and also 2 honorable mentions we'll talk about today. Now, I first did this countdown way back in 2006, and hasn't been a whole lot of adjusting to it, but we had to change the one at number 1. So we'll get to that next podcast. But we had top 10, one of the top 10 dropped into the honorable mention spot. And then when I looked at the countdown, I realized there were no bouts coming out of Virginia on this countdown. And quite frankly, at that time, 2006, there wasn't really a whole lot of action out of Virginia. I mean, except, of course, Prentice Whitaker down south in Southern Virginia. But in the northern section of the state, of the Commonwealth, which was my territory, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And then Jimmy Lang came in. We talked about Jimmy Lang a few weeks ago, and Jimmy Lang's his promotions really revitalized the Virginia scene. So our first honorable mention took place on October 27th, 2012, and that was a huge bout between Jimmy Lang and Tony Mo Better Jeter. It was a tremendous bout at the then Patriot Center, now known as the Eagle Bank Arena in Fairfax, Virginia. And this is the first bout between the two guys. This is the first bout. And the first bout was a wild one. No question about it. It was incredible. And to the point where Tony Jeter was in a big hole early in the bout. And Jimmy Lang scored a flash knockdown in the early part of the second round. Jeter lost 2 points in the second round for low blows. He lost another point in the third round for low blows as well. So referee Steve Smoger, Hall of Famer, was doing the bout, and he was toying with DQ, was talking to Jeter throughout the bout. But Jeter was really ahead in the bout, with the exception on the scorecards. He was really kind of dominating the bout. He threw a lot of the harder punches halfway through the bout, and the point deductions may have been a huge difference at that time, but Jeter would be ahead on points, we thought, going into the second half of the bout. But by the end of the bout, Tony Mo Better Jeter won a 10-round split decision over Jimmy Lang. He had 4 point deductions total during the bout. He had, once again, a flash knockdown. He got knocked down in the second round. He had 2 points taken away from low blows. He lost another low blow point in the fourth round. And he lost another point in the seventh round. But Jeter was really dominating the bout, and he really did deserve the win. No question about that. And Jeter, I really think he should have really thanked Steve Smoger for not disqualifying him, because I think other refs, especially refs who had not been as experienced and didn't have the credentials of Steve Smoger, might have disqualified him. Two judges scored for Jeter, 94-91, 93-92. One judge did score for Lang, 94-91. It was a tremendous bout, a wild bout, no question about that. They did have a rematch between the two, and Jeter had an easier time in defeating Jimmy Lang in the rematch. And in a few weeks, we will chronicle the story of Tony Mo Better Jeter. It's one of the most fascinating stories in all Beltway boxing, and I dare say this as kind of a preview to doing that tribute down the road. There aren't too many people in the Beltway that have done as much as Tony Jeter has done with very little, if no help, from outside promoters. And in fact, he's been a boxer, a manager, a promoter. He has done so. He's still doing promotion even to this day. But it'd be hard pressed to find somebody who has done as much as Tony Jeter has done in the boxing scene. So somewhere down the road, we will do a tribute to the career of Tony Mo Better Jeter. Now, back to the countdown. Our second honorable mention took place on September 25th, 1993. And by the way, these bouts that I'm going to do throughout this two-part podcast, they compassed the 3 eras of my Beltway Boxing covering career: Boxing Spotlight and Friday Night at the Field, but primarily Boxing Spotlight. Also, FightNews.com and Boxing Along the Beltway. All right. Now, our second honorable mention, and one that got kind of knocked out of the top 10 because of the one that I put at number 1, took place again on September 25th, 1993. The place was Novak Fieldhouse on the campus of Prince George's Community College in Largo, Maryland. Now, it's on the list. This is the first bout between Reggie Showtime Green and Lyndon Paul Walker. Now, this is the first bout that I call that was kind of a title bout because it was for the Metro DC Junior Welterweight title. Minor title, no question about it, but a title nonetheless. I called it again for Boxing Spotlight. It was a great bout featuring contrasting styles, as Green was more the slick boxer who could bang a little bit, and he would face a straight head banger, powerful boxer by the name of Lyndon Paul Walker. Now, it took Green quite a while to figure out how to get Walker off of him, but Green would manage to win a close, unanimous decision. Now, the two boxers would meet 5 months later at Martins West in Woodlawn, Maryland for the Maryland State Junior Welterweight title, and Green would have a much easier time in that bout. He knocked down Walker and en route to a lopsided, unanimous decision. Now, after that, we did talk about Reggie Green early on, and Reggie Green did go on to have a very good career. He won 2 NABF, 1 USBA, and 1 IBC title, earning 2 world title opportunities. He lost to Shambe Mitchell by majority decision for the WBA title. That was on the Triple Jeopardy card in D.C. back in April of 1999. He lost by 10th round TKO to Zab Judah for the IBF title in Uncasville, Connecticut, but he can son once again in January 2001. Also had a bout against Mickey Ward that a lot of people still talk about to this day. It was on ESPN in Massachusetts, and Green would lose that bout as well. Walker, meanwhile, never got his career on track after those 2 losses to Green. He lost bouts to really good opposition, including Shambe Mitchell. He also lost to Charles the Natural Murray, who also beat Reggie Green in his career. And he also lost to mighty Ivan Robinson. Now, his career ended in 1997 with an 8-round draw against Chuck Pitbull Sturm, and that took place in Baltimore. So those were our 2 honorable mention bouts. Jimmy Lang taking on Tony Jetta. Jetta winning that bout, and Reggie Green against Lyndon Paul Walker, their first bout in Largo, Maryland in September of 1993. So here we go. Now we have our top 10. Our top 10 at number 10 takes us back to May 20th, 1994. And this was about, that was a matchup between a rising star at the time and a fading but still dangerous veteran. This was the bout that took place at the D.C. Armory in Washington, D.C. Antonio Starchild Reese battling Dangerous D, Daryl Lattimore. Now, this was a much anticipated crossroads bout as Reese was undefeated going into the contest. He was 11-0 and 8 KOs, and he was a very unique, flashy boxer, had a lot of costumes and all, and he clashed with the no-nonsense style of Daryl Lattimore. Daryl Lattimore, former USBA champion. Lattimore's career got off to a great start. Right at the time of this bout against Antonio Reese, he was in the midst of a 4-bout losing streak, including tough losses to Daryl Too Sweet Cole. A lot of people thought he won that bout, and a loss to Larry Barnes. But Lattimore on this night, May 20th, 1994, was on his A game throughout the contest, pressuring Reese. He seemingly beat him to the punch in most of his changes. Excuse me. Reese's undefeated string looked to be coming to an end. However, the judges didn't see that way and awarded Reese a majority decision. Now, the fans up in arms throughout the D.C. Armory. They booed the decision vehemently. Reese did not spend time in the ring celebrating the victory. He was quickly ushered back to the locker room. Now, I called this bout as well for Boxing Spotlight. And after the bout, I had to literally run back to the locker room to get an interview with Reese. It was a wild night as well. Great bout. I thought Daryl Lattimore won the bout, perfectly honest with you. Now, neither boxer's career flourished after this contest. Both men won bouts on the Beltway Brawl card at the USA Arena in April of 1995, but it was pretty much downhill from there. Reese would lose a 10-round unanimous decision to Curtis Dynamite Peoples for the Metro Welterweight title in November of 1995. He would lose 2 of his next 5 bouts. He returned to boxing after a 5-year hiatus after the bout in December of 2004. He lost a 8-round decision to Richard Tiger Lee Hall at the new D.C. Convention Center. Now, Lattimore, after the loss to Reeves, was stopped in the third round by a future world champion by the name of Keith Holmes. And Lattimore would win just 3 more times in his career, and one of those victories was a 10-round decision over Robert Boo Boo Sawyer, another returning boxer at the time, in November of 1995 at the old Washington Convention Center. After losing to notable boxers like Adrian Stone, Mark Breland, and Mamadou Thien, Lattimore called it a career after being stopped in the 4th round by Emile Baku, the late Emile Baku, on December 1st, 1999 at Martins West in Woodlawn, Maryland. So that's number 10. Antonio Reese, Dangerous D, Daryl Lattimore, May 20th, 1994, the D.C. Armory. At number 9, the bout at the Washington Hilton Hotel and Towers, kind of reflected on this bout when I did my tribute to Daryl Tyson. But this bout was Daryl Tyson taking on Anthony Suggs at the Washington Hilton Hotel and Towers. This was during fight night, October 11th, 1995. This was a tremendous matchup of 2 solid punchers, and it was for the IBC Junior Welterweight Championship. Now, the Fight Night series recently ended, but I think this is a bout that will go down as one of the greatest bouts in the history of the Fight Night series. Now, normally, we go to Fight Night, we have a lot of power brokers, movers and shakers on the bout, and really, they are not interested in the boxing. They're talking among themselves. They may be trying to make deals. Who knows? They're looking at the beautiful women that are there. They're smoking their big cigars. They had a lot of cigars at that time, back in 1995. And with that is a very pivotal point in this bout. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But they were also there to see the legend of the bout boxing took place. Now, I talked about this a while back, how this is my first time attending Fight Night, and I got to meet everybody. I got to meet, there were people like Archie Moore and Floyd Patterson, Ingemar Johansson, Kid Gavilan. I mean, they were there. Michael Buffer was there, Burt Sugar. There was so many great legends that were in attendance that night. And I was in awe of all of them. But this particular bout, Daryl Tyson versus Anthony Suggs, made everyone in the building stop talking to each other, and they all focused on the ring. These guys went back and forth. They gave and took for the entire 10 rounds. Veteran Tyson finally stopped to determine Suggs in the 10th round. Add to the fact now that both men gave it their all while fighting under a clearly visible and heavy cloud of cigar smoke. You could see, I wish I had taken a picture of this, folks, because you could definitely see the cloud of smoke that was over the ring at that time. Remember, they were smoking in the ballroom at that time. I've heard this is the largest ballroom in the East Coast at the Washington Hilton Hotel. And this was a classic encounter, beautiful bout. One of the clear moments I remember from this bout was Tyson collapsing in his corner from all of that smoke. It was incredible. I can see it right. I can see it clear as day right now in my mind. Just that smoke just right over the ring. It was incredible. But Tyson would win that bout by 10th round TKO. Tyson was at the tail end of his career that would see him win over his career 2 USBA titles, 1 NABF crown, and a WBC Continental Americas title. He did come up short in 2 chances for world titles against Jimmy Paul. First of all, that was a 15-round encounter, making Daryl Tyson the last Beltway boxer to compete in a 15-round event. Incredible. And he actually beaten Jimmy Paul for the Continental Americas title, but Jimmy Paul came up the winner in the IBF lightweight championship. He also had a title bout against Miguel Angel Gonzalez. After the Suggs win, another victory against David Taylor in November of 1995, he lost 4 straight, Tyson did, between 1996 and 1998, following to Oscar De La Hoya, Shea Neary, Dioblis Hurtado, and Zab Judah. That bout took place on Fight Night 1998. Now, Tyson would surprise many. Coming back after a 2-year layoff in 2000, he won an 8-round split decision over Emmanuel Clottey at DC Tunnel. I was at that bout. It was a beautiful bout. And Tyson would win 3 straight before losing his last 2, including his final bout, a 10-round unanimous decision to former WBO champion DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley on December 12, 2004 at the new Convention Center. Suggs had one more minor title opportunity, losing the 12th round TKO to Reggie Showtime Green at Fight Night 1996 for the IBC Intercontinental Junior Welterweight crown. After that loss, Suggs had an undistinguished career that ended on February 7, 2001 with a 4th round TKO victory over Kenny Bazemore at the Lincoln Theater in D.C. So that is number 9, Daryl Tyson taking on Anthony Suggs at the Washington Hilton Hotel and Towers. That was on October 11th, 1995. Bout number 8 on the list takes us back to the D.C. Armory in Washington, D.C. on February 22nd, February 22nd, 1998. Now, this is a bout that didn't go long at all. It really didn't. And had it not been for the grandeur about this bout and the excitement surrounding this bout, which I had not seen in a while in the Beltway, it wouldn't be on this list. But it was an incredible experience. And again, these are not the greatest bouts in Beltway boxing history. These are my favorite bouts. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. This bout took place on national television on ESPN. And it was Mark Too Sharp Johnson battling Arthur Flash Johnson, February 22nd, 1998 at the D.C. Armory. It was a rare opportunity for Beltway boxing fans to see a world-class boxer at the top of his game. Now, as you may know, we've talked about this a while. The road to the World Championship was an arduous one for Mark Too Sharp Johnson. He had to ply his trade 3,000 miles from home, and he was ducked by the majority of the top flight flyweights in the world. Now, I really believe that Mark Johnson is in the Hall of Fame, the International Boxing Hall of Fame right now, not only because of those he defeated, but he's also there because of those who were afraid to face him. Okay? I know that may sound weird, but I really do believe that. Okay? I mean, he faced some great ones. No question about that. Of course, he won his title over former world champion Francisco Teodoro on May 4th, 1996 in Anaheim, California. But people who were afraid to face him, like Johnny Tapia, Danny Romero, Michael Carbajal, he was about to face, but Carbajal lost his third bout to Humberto Gonzalez. So that's why he never faced Michael Carbajal. Yuri Boshkov wouldn't face him. He was WBC flyweight champion. After Johnson beat Alberto Raton Jimenez went on to win the BO championship and wouldn't face Johnson again. So it's really, really, I really do believe that Mark Johnson is in the Hall of Fame as much because of the career he had and the wins he had, but he also is there because of many of those boxers who avoided him like the plague. No question about that. Johnson will make 4 successful title defenses and become a fixture in the top 10 pound-for-pound list throughout the boxing world. I believe he's the last Beltway boxer to make those Ring Magazine and Boxing Illustrated at that time and so many other pound-for-pound top 10 lists. But he had one goal left at that point of his career. He wanted to bring a title defense to his hometown. Now, that dream was realized on February 22nd, 1998. He defended his title against the number 1 ranked challenger, Arthur Flash Johnson. Now, this was interesting because Arthur Johnson gave, I believe it was Danny Romero, a fit in their bout. He was on the road again. But, so he came to D.C. and faced Mark Too Sharp Johnson. It was actually an ESPN2 broadcast. I think it said ESPN, but it's ESPN2 broadcasted the bout. Now, the bout had boxing fans along the Beltway and across the nation drooling. Again, one of the best fighters in the world putting his title up against a legitimate number 1 contender and a guy that had fought hard not only against Romero but in another world title bout and just came up a little short. Now, to have this bout here in Washington, D.C., Mark Johnson had to give up $30,000 of his purse. That in and of itself was amazing. That's how badly Mark Johnson wanted to have the bout here in Washington, D.C. Now, there was another story for this as well. Most boxers, when they're on television, in fact, they're the lead guy on television, they don't make a lot of consideration. They don't ask for a lot, I should say. They don't ask for a lot of things going on. They really just are glad to be there. They're glad to be the main event. They're glad to be the co-feature, and they'll make a lot of concessions. Mark Johnson, who at that time was being managed by the late Cedric Kushner, made a point. He had a point that he wanted to get to the promoters of the card. He put it in his contract. In his contract, I say, that ring announcer Henry Discombobulating Jones, the local announcer, would be the ring announcer for that card. And that in itself is very rare, but again, it shows the loyalty that Mark Too Sharp Johnson has. Not only Mark Too Sharp Johnson, but I got to include his father Ham in that too. And he made a point that, and I mean, he told Henry this. He said, if I ever have a world title the event in D.C., if I ever defend my title in D.C., you will be the ring announcer. And he lived up to that. Just like he lived up to, now he lived up, but he just made it a point back in 1999, Triple Jeopardy card after he won his second world title. When he saw me in the locker room afterwards, in the dressing room afterwards, he made sure I got the first interview with him. When he won his first title, the Intercontinental Championship, he made his point to have his first interview with myself and my partner Butch McAdams at the time on WL Radio. That's the loyalty of Mark Too Sharp Johnson. So it's incredible. Now, Too Sharp, there was so much electricity in the ring, in the area. Oh, it was incredible. Mark came to the ring on a throne. Johnson came to the ring on a throne. He was surrounded by dancing girls. His feet never touched the floor until he got into the ring. It was incredible. The place was packed. DC Army was packed that night. One of the best crowds I've seen. Now, Discombobulating Jones would announce Mark as King Marcellus. The champ comes home, King Marcellus. Now, unfortunately for Arthur Johnson, the ring entrance was longer than the actual bout. Now, midway through the opening round, Mark would clip Arthur Johnson alongside the head with a right-hand punch. Mark referred to it later on as his look-away punch. The blow would stun Arthur Johnson. Mark would finish the bout. He knocked Arthur out at 1:11 of the first round. It was amazing. And I'll never forget, I was sitting next to the publicist for the bout, very good friend of mine named Lee Thompson. And Lee had done so much work, and she was as much responsible for getting a lot of the crowd to the DC Armory as Mark was himself. But Lee was relaxed. Her work had been done, and the bout comes on. The bout ends, and she yells out, "That's it?" That was it. I don't think she ever did another boxing show after that. It was amazing, but that was an incredible, incredible, incredible moment. That's why it's on this list, because it wasn't so much the bout. The bout was dominated by Mark Johnson, but the whole event surrounding that, it took us a long time before we got to another card with that type of fanfare. Maybe I had to go to the card we talked about a few weeks ago, Mike Tyson and Kevin McBride. I mean, that's how close we came. That's how far we've been since the bout of that grandeur, of that excitement, of that enthusiasm that took place. So it was amazing. No question about that. Now, after the bout, of course, Johnson and followers called out Johnny Tapia at the bout. After the bout, Tapia moved up to the super flyweight division. After two more flyweight title defenses, Johnson would vacate the IBF flyweight title. Challenger China Chai saw Vorpin for the vacant IBF super flyweight championship on the Triple Jeopardy card, which he won. We just talked about that. And Johnson would defend his title twice before legal issues took him away from the sport for almost 2 years. And on August 16, 2003, Johnson surprised boxing observers by winning his third world title, the WBO Super Flyweight Championship, but winning a majority decision over Fernando Montiel in Augustville, Connecticut. And, of course, in 2012, Johnson was headed into the Boxing Hall of Fame, and he's the youngest member of the Hall of Fame right now. So that's amazing. Meanwhile, Arthur Johnson tried one last time for a world title. He moved up to bantamweight to challenge IBF title holder Tim Austin, and Once again, Arthur Johnson would lose a unanimous decision. So that's number 8 on our list. Mark Johnson versus Arthur Johnson, February 22nd, 1998, at the D.C. Armory in Washington, D.C. At number 7, a bout that we've talked about a few weeks ago, but it does bear repeating. Number 7, this bout was the first contest between Keith Holmes and Andrew Council on September 23rd, 1994, at the Showplace Arena in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Now, this was one of the most controversial bouts in recent Beltway boxing history, in and out of the ring. Now, this contest was the final bout of one of the greatest weeks of Beltway boxing history at that time. DC area was the centerpiece of the boxing world. The area played host to 2 nationally televised boxing cards during the week of September 19th. One was at the DC Army, shown on USA Network, and this one at the Showplace Arena was televised by ESPN2. Now, the card was promoted by legendary Baltimore promoter Stu Satowski. Now, this was his only promotion that he ever had on the DC side of the Beltway in Prince George's County, Maryland. Now, Stu Satowski tried to get a number of places in the Baltimore area to agree to host the show. He talked to a couple of the colleges, but a lot of those colleges at that time, in fact, I don't think they still do, they would not serve beer. So they could not have him at any of the colleges, but finally he had to settle for the Showplace Arena, which turned out to be a very good move at that time. Now, the Holmes Council bout was scheduled to be the co-feature bout on the card, but main event boxer Dana Rosenblatt was injured, and the Beltway rivalry became a main event and a bout for the USBA Junior Middleweight Championship. Now, there was outside drama on this bout, as early in the week, Keith Holmes had been arrested and charged with murder in a neighborhood incident. He was freed on bail the day before the bout and allowed to compete. Now, of course, months later, Holmes was found not guilty of the charge. The bout itself, very competitive, each man doing what he does best. Holmes used his jab, while Council bore in and landed punishing body shots. Unfortunately for Andrew Council, referee Chris Wallinson thought some of the body blows landed below the belt. He ended up taking 3 points away from Council, which forced Council to alter his game plan and Holmes became more effective as he went on to win a somewhat lopsided decision. Now, this was one of those bouts that I think was really career changing for both men. This was a bout that I think if Andrew Council had won the bout, Andrew Council would have gotten a lot of those accolades that he ended up not getting. And I think a lot of that happened because of this bout. Keith Holmes going on to win the world title, of course. The two men would face each other again later on in 1999, and Holmes would win a unanimous decision in that bout as well. Both men are doing very well in their current lives. Andrew has a gym, Triple Threat Gym, and I believe it's in Atlanta, Maryland. And Keith Holmes is doing well as an entrepreneur, so they end up having a great career both ways having a great career. I know both men faced Bernard Hopkins. It was a tremendous situation, but it was a really interesting bout that night. September 23rd, 1994, Keith Holmes versus Andrew Council. And our 6th bout, the last bout we'll talk about this week on this podcast, will take place on July 5th, 1994, at the Washington Convention Center. This is a bout between Daryl Too Sweet Coley and former world title challenger Terrence Ali. Now, this was an incredible bout in and of itself because it ended up being the coming out party for the boxer that was perceived at that time to be the Beltway's brightest star. And again, we've talked about Daryl Coley, but to really understand why this bout is on this list, you really do have to understand how highly Daryl Coley was thought of at this time in his career. I referred to him because he was part of the hardcore team. I referred to him as the Beltway's Ric Flair because he was the main flagship of the hardcore. He was also the flagship boxer of the area. Now, bear in mind, Joppy, Holmes, Johnson, and Mitchell had not won their titles yet. They were still prospects leading up to being contenders at this time. And Coley really was thought of as being a little bit ahead of them. Okay? Many people's eyes, he was the man who's the can't-miss kid, and he was poised to leave our next wave of Beltway boxers to championship glory. Now, he seemed to go out about his career the right way, taking baby steps with one minor hiccup, which was a 10-round draw against Lonnie Smith in May of 1993. Now, Coley's first test, we just talked about a few minutes ago, he won a 10-round unanimous decision over veteran Daryl Lattimore 2 months after the Smith bout. So that was a tough bout there. No question about that. It was at Coolidge High School in Washington, D.C. But fortune seemed to turn around after Coley starched veteran Saul Mambi in the first round in August 1993. But Coley had to wait 8 months before his next bout because of managerial troubles. He switched from Michael Marley to Barry Lindy, who was the one who put together the hardcore. Now, he had 2 straight wins after the managerial change, and the stage was set for this bout, which was really scheduled to be his coming out party. In front of his home crowd at the old Washington Convention Center, and also a nationally televised USA Network show, network audience Tuesday night fights, Coley faced the biggest and toughest named date on his record, perennial world title contender by the name of Terrence Ali. The vacant NABF welterweight title was on the line, and Ali was a bad old man, he kept saying. Bad old man again. He'd been in there with the best. He was an incredible boxer at that time. But youth was served that night as Coley took everything Ali had to offer for stopping him in the 11th round. And it really was Coley's best performance to date. No question about that. He'd win the NABF title. Now, the sad part about this is that Coley's win over Ali really proved to be the high point of his career. He really could get no higher than this, unfortunately. He had a tough career the rest of the way. He fell victim to a combination of poor performance, poor timing, and poor politics. A lot of that was involved with that. Now, one example of his poor performance was Coley's first NABF title defense, a bout against a relatively unknown warrior from Mexico named Jaime Rocky Balboa. That was on September 20, 1994 at the DC Army, also on USA Network. Now, Balboa came in on short notice, but he almost embarrassed Coley in front of that network television audience, should say. Dropped Coley once during the bout, but Coley did just enough to salvage a draw. Now, in his second defense on January 31st, 1995, also at the Army and also on USA Network, Coley put on a much better performance in defeating undefeated challenger Ray Lovato. Now, that may have been a sign of things to come for 2 reasons. Number one, the scoring itself. Now, I thought watching that bout and actually calling the bout for Boxing Spotlight, we actually had a chance to give us an opportunity to call that bout and shown on a delayed basis. I thought Coley won easily. Myself and my broadcast partner, Charles James, my brother-in-law, we thought Coley won easily. But he ended up only getting a majority draw. In fact, the scores were really crazy because one judge had to score 117-111, and another judge saw the draw. And then the third judge had Coley winning 115-113, which was amazing in and of itself. Now, the second reason was poor timing. Despite beating Lovato, Coley did not get a world title shot against any of the welterweight title holders. Lovato, with Coley, still the only loss on his record. Lovato had not lost again since the Coley fight. He ended up receiving an IBF title shot against Felix Trinidad a year later. Now, the situation can be explained by the poor politics that Coley endured. Now, this became evident back when Coley defended his NABF title against Oba Carr, perennial world title contender, on August 12, 1995 in Las Vegas, in front of another nationally televised audience, this time on Showtime. Now, this was a Don King show, and Carr was a talented, exciting, and he was a Don King fighter. But Coley was beautiful on this night. He had a great bout, matched Carr speed for speed, punch for punch, and he looked like he was going to win this bout relatively easy and get another step to the world title. But Coley was victimized by one of the worst decisions by judges I've ever seen to this day in my entire career. Carr would end up winning a close split decision, and he'd win the NABF title. And I really believe because Coley, one, couldn't talk about it, and two, the press, including myself, kept reminding him about it, I believe Coley was never the same after that. I really do. I believe he was never the same after that bout. Now, 2 bouts after the loss to Carr, on June 11, 1996, Coley tried for the vacated NABF title, but was dominated by unknown Pat Coleman. He was no good in that bout. But the loss was later changed to a no contest when Coleman tested positive for drugs. In his next contest, Coley came off the canvas twice to beat Kip Diggs for the NABF crown on March 25th, 1997 in Oxnard, California. And 4 fights later, on February 26, 2000, Coley finally made some real money. He was the first boxer since Sugar Ray Leonard to fight for $1 million purse. And he faced Oscar De La Hoya for a minor title. But the old Coley stamina was not there. He was stopped in the 7th round. And Coley would stop his career after 4 state losses against lackluster competition. And he had a great career, but it could have been even better. That was the key. It could have been even better. But that was an amazing night. Definitely no question about it. An amazing night on July 5th, 1994, when Daryl Coley knocked out Terrence Ali at the Washington Convention Center. So those are my first 5, plus 2 honorable mentions on my top 10 of my favorite Beltway boxing bouts. Our next podcast, we'll finish up the countdown and kind of reflect on what is going on as we celebrate going into our 16th year of boxing along the Beltway. The Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network, brought to you, as always, by Real Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain and muscle strain, everything between. Boxing along the Beltway and Big George Foreman recommend Real Time Pain Relief, the natural, safe, plant-based, fast, and effective ointment. You can go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief, get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief, and ask for George Foreman's Knockout Formula. It's a knockout. And rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. Great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. Thank you for joining us once again on our Look Down Memory Lane here on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. And join us for our next podcast. We'll finish up this countdown. Until then, I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. And always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world. The boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Oh, beautiful right hand by Daryl Coley.